Hi, thanks for joining us today. I'm Deanne Conrad, Community Relations Supervisor, and we are here with Korey Erickson. He's one of our elementary school librarians and one of 2 male librarians in the district. Is that throughout the district or just in elementary?
Throughout the whole district. Both the male librarians are at the elementary level.
Elementary level. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that, because that seems like that's not your typical librarian that we hear about.
Well, when you think about librarian, you probably think of, a mousy old lady, hair in a bun, peering out of those half-room glasses.
Right.
So no, the other male librarian and I don't fit into that stereotype, but truly none of the librarians are mousy little old ladies.
Right.
Maybe I'm not such a bad seed after all.
Libraries are vibrant places, not the quiet shush that they used to be. What kind of atmosphere is the school library all about today?
The library really is the heart of the school. It's buzzing with different activities going on. Many of our libraries and our librarians are hosting book talks. They're doing makerspace activities with different STEAM and STEM. And it's not just in the library either. It's the librarian's presence is felt in the classroom too.
Let's talk a little bit about libraries today. I'd say 10 years ago, people were thinking, oh, technology's coming into play. Not going to need school libraries anymore. There was that talk, that fear. But this is as important today as it has been since the beginning of schools and the beginning of time.
Well, and the idea that the librarians were the gatekeeper of the books, the guardian of the books, and it's really shifted, and the mindset of they are the key holders to information. Not only is it getting the kids books, which is an important part of it, but also allowing kids to get access to information and how to use it in responsible ways, but it's being that navigator of the technology and how to use it, and making sure that it's taught how. And that's the important thing. Is I think a lot of the times people believe that kids just intuitively know, you give them something, they should be able to do it.
Right.
But they need to be taught how to do it.
Sure. So are we still learning and teaching about the Dewey Decimal System? I see the 398.2 traditional literature, fairy tales. How are things divided in the libraries today?
I still talk about Dewey and the importance of the organization of why things are the way they are. But we have many different libraries kind of doing what they feel is best for their students. Over at Washington High School, they genreified their fiction section. So now if you are looking for a historical fiction book, you go to that section, or you want a romantic book, you go there. It's to help get the kids the books that they want. It allows them to quickly get what they need. Yeah, rather than having them kind of mindlessly wander, it's a little self-empowering for the students to be able to know what they want and where they should go.
You have lots and lots of books here in the library. How are libraries outfitted with books every year? You go out in search of new books that are available and sort of vet those, or how does that work?
Through the collection development process, librarians use a multitude of resources through School Library Journal, looking at book reviews, recommendations from other librarians, and then there is just truly that reading reviews online. Sometimes it might just be that Amazon review. The easiest way for choosing books is just, from other people who have read it and other librarians when we get together and talk about these brand new great books that are available.
So you, as you alluded to earlier, it's not just library class when kids come into the library, but you're supporting teachers in their classroom lessons as well. Talk a little bit about that collaboration and maybe give us some examples of how you support teachers in their lesson planning as well.
So, the goal of a librarian is not just to be in isolation and be in the library, but ideally to be in the classroom or discussing with the teacher and what they're doing and how the library can help strengthen what they're doing. Kindergarten was doing life cycles last month. And so I found a nice picture book about a caterpillar, and we talked about the process of the science behind the life cycle of the caterpillar, moving through that, just to kind of give them that little reinforcement of what they learned in the classroom. And they're like, yeah, the official name of a cocoon is a chrysalis. And I was like, absolutely.
A kindergartner that can say chrysalis, that's excellent.
And then, it's just that communication with teachers. Our fifth graders are doing biography, so I was trying to pull some biographies about during the Revolutionary War, and try to support them in that way too. So it's truly, the library isn't just there, but it's trying to, as a professional and the librarians, to be in the classroom, or at least communicating with the classroom to co-teach or collaborate, or at least reinforce instruction.
Right. So I know that libraries are so much more than just books on shelves and people coming to look through them. But our libraries really have, as you said, been a hub for maker spaces, book battles, things like that, where we're creating an environment where kids can gain that knowledge and then showcase that knowledge through maker spaces or the book battles. What are some of the things that our libraries in Sioux Falls that you're super proud of that maybe aren't necessarily your thing that you did, but libraries in general in Sioux Falls?
There is a librarian over at Lowell who is doing 3D printing. In my mind, all I can think was with 3D printing, that's a college thing. That's something you do way later on when you're designing and engineering something. And we have an elementary librarian doing that with kids. We have a librarian over at Discovery who does an after-school STEAM program once a week during the spring. We have different librarians who they have pumpkin decorating contests in the fall. And so they come in and they have their book character pumpkin on display, something that they have on there that they can be proud of what they have.
Right, and showcase that character in a different light or whatever, and maybe even spark the interest of another student who thinks, oh, that's a really cool pumpkin, but what book was that from? And then really spark that interest in that child.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite part about the library?
Favorite part? I like choosing a favorite child.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding. No. I would say one of my favorite parts is helping kids choose books. When we get a kid who's like, I'm looking for a book on this, or, I can't find a good book. And after doing a little reader's advisory and try to help them really narrow down kind of what they might be interested in, and like, I have a book just for you. And then you give it to them, and like, they love it, and it's almost life-changing.
So when people say, what's your favorite book in the library? You have so many to choose from. What is your favorite?
I'm gonna have to go back to my original, that really got me into reading. It would have to be Number of the Stars by Lois Lowry. I think I was a fourth grader and learning about World War II, and because I loved that era, and I'll be honest, I wasn't always the best reader, or maybe not the best reader, but maybe the most diligent reader, I would say.
Okay.
But Number of the Stars was a fantastic book that really got me hooked, and it was just a page turner, and I couldn't put it down. And after I did that, I started exploring other books too. So I would say Number of the Stars will always be one of my favorites.
Great. So the fact that brought you in, let's talk a little bit about your, did you always want to be a school librarian?
No. Call it a happy accident.
Okay.
Originally I went to school for teaching English. I wanted to work with high schoolers and helping them tolerate Shakespeare, appreciate Shakespeare, and a few other classics. But when I got my first teaching job, on the weekends I was working at my college's library as the weekend supervisor. And when I was helping the college students with their research and writing papers, helping them find materials, it kind of got me this little interest of like, maybe. And then, like I said, I was a bit of a happy accident. There was a position that opened up here at Robert Frost, and I had applied, and the rest is history.
Great. And so did you actually, you did teach high school?
I was more middle school. I did middle school teaching for a while, and then after that I taught in South Korea, teaching English to elementary kids. And then when I came back, I worked overseeing some after-school programming previously to come into this.
So is this your place?
It's my home, my second home.
Yeah.
There's just always something special about a library. Being surrounded by great books, whenever I need to find an idea for a lesson, there's always a great book that goes with that, whether it's something on character education or teaching a certain concept or skill. I can find anything off the shelf that I need. And bad to everybody. I was lost on purpose. I lived inside a soda can.
I am a parent of a reluctant reader. All we want to do is sports, and that's been challenging to find something that's actually has a good story behind it, that type of thing. But what happens how do you encourage parents, or what advice would you give them if a student is just maybe not finding what their niche would be in the library?
For a parent, I honestly think it is going to maybe like the public library with them and trying just to walk around and see what really do you like. You say you don't like anything? No, you absolutely love stuff. You tell me you love lots of things. And it's truly, I think, that's an important part, is that going to, being that actively involved parents should be, with their kids learning and in their reading. And I also think, a fun thing is just reading with them. Maybe you get 2 copies of the same book so that you can talk about what you're reading together then too.
Right, developing a relationship with the book, but also furthering your relationship as parent-child as well. What about, there's all kinds of reading. Oftentimes we think just books, but there's lots of opportunities to read, whether through newspapers, through magazines, through even, the Kindle or electronics, as we say. How can we spice that up for kids if they're not page turners, so to speak?
Well, magazines are always great, newspapers are always great. The idea is if you're reading something, great, at least you're reading. One thing that many of our libraries do is promote our online digital collection through Sora. So it has ebooks and audiobooks. And then a lot of libraries also have playaways, which are little media audiobook devices. And I think part of the time, I can sit down and read for 20 minutes, but yet, I just have a million things going on in my head, and I might have read 30 pages, but since I wasn't actively paying attention, it's all in and out. Yes. But having, that access to maybe an audiobook with that book allows for that concentration with that. I think that's I think audiobooks are making reading more accessible.
And also we know that, or I've seen examples of students who are learning the English language. That's a reinforcement. Those audiobooks are a reinforcement of what they're visually reading, as well as they're learning the English language and that type of thing.
Well, and absolutely, it's just one of those things. What does that little comma thing mean? Oh, I'm supposed to pause. Oh, the dialogue, the 2 at the top. Understanding that it's someone else speaking and it's a different person.
Right.
And in tone and sarcasm that you might not get off the page, but if it's being read to you, that makes sense.
Any final thoughts that you want to leave with people as we're thinking about school libraries and just the importance of them?
School libraries are truly promoting that critical thinking, that communication, and that creative side, that we aren't, these little old ladies telling kids to shh all the time. Maybe sometimes, but not all the time. No, it's the best place in the school, and it's a place where everyone's welcome to come visit and find what they enjoy, find what they need. Then, a giant.
M-A-K-U.
Maku.
Yes.
And your last name?
Adriano. Oof, it's a tie between fantasy and realistic fiction because I like things that are made up, but I would also like a story that could actually have happened in real life, or something that someone could actually be going through right now, and so then it's kind of just interesting to read. One series that really caught my attention was the Magnus Chase series. It's a fantasy series, and it's just a really good series because there's action, but there's also, like, you can meet the gentle but the fierce side of people in the book, or in the series in general, and it's just amazing how you can just get lost in the book and just like feel like you're right there with the characters, and it's perfect. I would much rather read a series because then usually at the end of a certain book there's a cliffhanger, and then I can go on with that cliffhanger in the next book. And then if I like longer series, especially Harry Potter, that's one of my favorite book series, because there's so many cliffhangers and so many things that are yet to learn and so many plot twists. It's just amazing. Even if I loved a series, who knows, I might love the next one even more. So it's just great. It's great to finish a series. I've always loved reading. I started reading when I was about 2.5, and even then I've been reading books for around 4, and I think that's mostly the thing that's got me in the Challenge Center, because things that are much, like a level that's much higher than me, it interests me in some way. It just intrigues me, and then it just catches my attention. And yeah, you got an entire series worth of books.
Yeah, 5 books.
I wouldn't really look at just the title itself because that's very misleading with most titles. I would usually, if I see a book I like, usually it's like novels, I would flip it over and then read the summary on the back, and then see just a little bit about the story itself and how it's just going to turn out, and some characters in the book, and then that really helps me just start off with certain books, and then I usually end up liking them. It's just a great little laundry room for the New York apartment building. For me, I would read just about anything, but it's really mostly up to them. If they find something that interests them, that they think is great to read, something that's fun to read, something that is just makes them happy, it puts them in a happy place, then I would totally go for that, just so that they can like feel great inside after reading a certain book. Yeah, it's like you're giving yourself a trophy, but it's not there, but you can feel it, like you can feel it inside of you. It's just amazing. Ooh, I'm like filled with joy. There's so many books that I can choose from now. They're everywhere, and books are just something that makes me happy, and I love the library. My favorite class, by far. I know, right? It makes me like happy inside. Which one is this?